The text message from my mother arrived 3 days before Christmas, just as I was finishing up a major acquisition deal in my office. Emma, darling, about Christmas dinner. Perhaps it's better if you don't come this year. Your sister Olivia is bringing her new fiancé. He's a state senator, you know, and we need to maintain a certain image. You understand, right? Love, Mom. I stared at my phone, feeling that familiar ache in my chest. Even after all these years, after everything I'd accomplished, I was still the family disappointment. Sitting in my corner office on the 47th floor of the Astor building, overlooking the Manhattan skyline, I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. My mother had no idea that the struggling consultant she was so ashamed of was actually the CEO of Summit Industries, one of the largest consulting firms in North America. Miss Parker? My assistant Sarah's voice came through the intercom. The board is ready for the global tech acquisition call. Thank you, Sarah. I straightened my designer suit. Not that anyone in my family would recognize it as such. They still thought I shopped at discount stores. As I prepared for the call, my mind drifted back to where this all began. 10 years ago, I had stood in our family's living room, trying to explain my decision to leave my prestigious junior analyst position at my father's company. "You're throwing away everything we built for you," Dad had shouted, his face red with anger. "And for what? To start your own business? Don't be ridiculous." My sister Olivia had sat on the expensive leather couch, smirking. She was already a rising star at Parker Financial, our father's company, following the path that had been laid out for her since birth. "Emma's always been the rebellious one," she'd said with fake sympathy. "She just doesn't understand how the real business world works." Oh, how wrong they'd been. While they thought I was struggling with a small consulting practice, I was actually building Summit Industries from the ground up. I worked 18-hour days, sacrificed every comfort, and poured every penny I had into my company. And now, Summit Industries was worth billions, though we operated so quietly that most people had no idea who owned us, including my family, including Parker Financial. A knock on my office door interrupted my thoughts. "Miss Parker?" Sarah entered with a stack of documents. "The final contracts from Parker Financial just arrived. They're ready for your signature." Ah, yes, the contract. The delicious irony of it all. Parker Financial, my father's pride and joy, had been desperately trying to secure a partnership with Summit Industries for months. They had no idea they were essentially begging for their prodigal daughter's approval. I picked up my phone and reread my mother's text. Need to maintain a certain image. My laptop pinged with a new email from Olivia. "Emma, heard Mom texted you about Christmas. Don't take it personally. You know how important appearances are to her. Besides, Senator Richards is very particular about the company he keeps. It's really better this way. Maybe once you've made something of yourself, you can join us again. Live." I set my phone down and looked at the stack of contracts on my desk. The partnership would be worth millions to Parker Financial. They were counting on it to fund their expansion into international markets. My father had been bragging about it for weeks, according to my sources, and all it needed was my signature. Sarah appeared in the doorway again. "Your father's on line 1. He wants to discuss the contract signing ceremony." I picked up the phone, adopting the professionally distant tone I always used when dealing with Parker Financial. "Emma Mitchell speaking." I used my mother's maiden name in business specifically to avoid detection. "Ms. Mitchell." My father's voice was eager, ingratiating, so different from the dismissive tone he used with his younger daughter. I just wanted to confirm everything's set for the signing ceremony tomorrow. This partnership means everything to our company. I thought about Christmas dinner, about Olivia's smug email, about years of being treated like a failure. Actually, Mr. Parker, I said smoothly, I've been reviewing the contracts and I have some concerns. Concerns? I could hear the panic creeping into his voice. What concerns? Everything was approved by your board. Things change, I replied. Perhaps we should discuss this in person. Why don't you bring your family to the signing ceremony tomorrow? After all, Parker Financial is a family company, isn't it? Yes, of course. I'll bring everyone. My wife, my daughter Olivia. All your daughters. I corrected him firmly. Oh. His voice dimmed slightly. Well, Emma's not really involved in the business. All your daughters, Mr. Parker, I repeated, or there will be no signing ceremony. After he agreed and hung up, I sat back in my chair, gazing out at the city lights. Tomorrow, my family would walk into my office expecting to meet the mysterious CEO of Summit Industries. Instead, they would come face to face with their greatest disappointment. Sarah appeared one last time. Shall I prepare the conference room for tomorrow's event? I smiled, fingering the contract papers on my desk. Yes, and Sarah? Make sure the photographers are ready. I want to capture every moment when they realize exactly who they've been dealing with. As night fell over Manhattan, I stayed in my office, planning every detail of tomorrow's revelation. My family wanted to maintain a certain image. Well, they were about to learn what real success looked like, and Christmas dinner would never be the same again. The morning of the contract signing, I arrived at the office 2 hours early. The conference room on the 47th floor had been meticulously prepared. Fresh flowers arranged on gleaming mahogany tables, elegant place cards marking each seat, floor-to-ceiling windows offering a stunning view of Manhattan's skyline. Your family just arrived in the lobby, Sarah informed me, her expression carefully neutral. She'd been with me since the beginning, one of the few people who knew the whole truth. Should I send them up? I checked my reflection in the window. Gone was the deliberately understated clothing I wore around my family. Today, I wore a crisp Armani suit, Louboutin heels, and my grandmother's vintage Cartier watch, the only inheritance she'd left me, along with her belief in my potential. No, I replied, smoothing my jacket. Had them wait. I want to make an entrance. 20 minutes later, I stood in my private elevator, watching the floor numbers tick upward. My phone buzzed, another text from my mother. Emma, where are you? Your father says it's crucial you attend this meeting. Don't embarrass us by being late. I smiled, slipping the phone back into my pocket as the elevator doors opened. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I could see them all. My father pacing nervously, my mother fixing Olivia's already perfect hair, and my sister preening in her reflection, probably rehearsing her most ingratiating smile for the mysterious CEO. Senator Richards, Olivia's fiancé, sat examining the contract papers with an expression of barely concealed boredom. He'd never met me. Olivia had made sure of that, but he was about to. I nodded to Sarah, who opened the conference room doors. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced, Ms. Emma Mitchell, CEO of Summit Industries. The silence that followed was absolute. I could hear the soft hum of the air conditioning as I walked into the room, my heels clicking deliberately against the marble floor. My mother's champagne glass slipped from her fingers, shattering on the polished table. My father's face had gone from red to white in seconds. but it was Olivia's expression that I would remember forever. Pure, unadulterated shock as her carefully constructed world of superiority crumbled around her. "Hello, family," I said calmly, taking my seat at the head of the table. "Shall we begin?" This is impossible," my father stammered. "You're a small-time consultant." "Am I?" I opened the folder in front of me. Interesting. Because according to these documents, I'm the CEO of the company you've been desperately trying to partner with for the past 6 months. The senator cleared his throat, looking between me and his shell-shocked fiancée. "I'm sorry. What exactly is happening here?" "Oh, forgive my sister's rudeness." I smiled sweetly at Olivia. She should have introduced us at Christmas dinner. But wait, I wasn't invited, was I? Something about maintaining a certain image. My mother found her voice. "Emma, darling, there's been a terrible misunderstanding." "Has there?" I cut her off, my voice sharp. "Let's review, shall we?" I'd pressed a button on the conference table, and the wall screen lit up with a series of emails and text messages. Here's you telling me I'm not successful enough to attend family gatherings. Here's Olivia suggesting I'm an embarrassment to the family name. And here, I paused for effect, is Dad practically begging for this partnership, completely unaware he was negotiating with his disappointing younger daughter. The silence in the room was deafening. Sarah quietly distributed copies of the contract, or rather, what remained of it. My father flipped through the pages frantically. These aren't the same terms we discussed." "No," I agree pleasantly. "They're not. You see, I've had time to reconsider this partnership. In fact, I've had years to consider exactly how I wanted this moment to play out." Olivia, finally finding her voice, leaned forward. "You can't do this. Daddy's been planning this expansion for months. The board is counting on it." I turned to her, letting my smile fade. "You mean like how I counted on my family's support when I was building my company from nothing? Like how I counted on being treated with basic respect at family gatherings?" "That was different," my mother protested weakly. "We were just trying to protect you from disappointment." "No," I cut her off. "You were protecting your image, your precious social standing. Well, congratulations. You've succeeded in creating exactly the image you wanted. The whole business world will know exactly who the Parkers are after today." I stood up, smoothing my jacket. "The partnership deal is off. Summit Industries will be acquiring Global Tech directly, which, as I'm sure Dad has realized by now, will effectively block Parker Financial from expanding into the international market." My father slumped in his chair, the full implications hitting him. Without this partnership, without the expansion it would have funded, Parker Financial would remain exactly what it was, a mid-sized regional firm, forever in the shadow of Summit Industries. "You can't do this," he whispered. "We're family." I paused at the door, turning back one last time. "Family? That's interesting, because according to the text messages I received yesterday, I'm not successful enough to be part of this family. I wonder." I pretended to think for a moment. "Will I be successful enough for Christmas dinner now?" The silence that followed me out was deafening. Through the glass walls, I could see my mother dabbing at her eyes with an expensive handkerchief, my father staring blankly at the contract papers, and Olivia, perfect, successful Olivia, slumped in her chair, her carefully constructed world lying in pieces around her. Sarah fell into step beside me as I walked back to my office. "That was quite a show," she said quietly. "Are you okay?" I looked down at my phone, where another desperate text from my mother was flashing. "Cancel the Christmas dinner," I replied, a small smile playing at my lips. "I have other plans." The true fallout was just beginning, and I had a feeling the holidays were about to get very interesting indeed. The aftermath of the contract signing was exactly what I expected. A hurricane of desperate calls, manipulative messages, and increasingly panicked attempts at reconciliation. My phone buzzed constantly. "Emma, sweetheart, we need to talk about this as a family. Mom, you're destroying everything I built. Dad, can't we discuss this like rational business people? Olivia." I ignored them all while Summit Industries proceeded with the Global Tech acquisition. Without the partnership, Parker Financial's stock price began to drop. The business news was ruthless. Parker Financial, Lois ESCRUCYALPA, Uncanny HI. BUHG, Summit Industries. FANILYDRAMA failed MERGER. Parker stock PLUNETA as international expansion PANSEOLNATA. 1 week after the failed signing, I sat in my office reviewing the latest acquisition reports when Sarah appeared at my door. "Your sister's here again," she said. "Third time this week, but this time she's alone. No senator fiancé." I glanced at the security feed on my laptop. Olivia stood in the lobby, but something was different. Gone was her usual perfectly polished appearance. She looked tired. "Send her up," I said after a moment's consideration. Olivia walked into my office like a stranger, her eyes taking in the expansive space, the view, the clear symbols of success she'd never noticed in her failing sister. "Nice office," she said quietly. "Bigger than mine at Parker Financial. Though I suppose that's not saying much anymore. What do you want, Olivia?" She sank into one of the visitor chairs. Senator Richards called off the engagement. I raised an eyebrow. Really? The perfect power couple didn't survive a little financial setback. He said he couldn't be associated with a failing family business. She laughed bitterly. Apparently, I'm not successful enough for his image. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. "Dad's drinking again," she continued. "The board is questioning his leadership. Mom's social circle is buzzing with gossip. Everything's falling apart, and it's all because of me?" I interrupted. "No, Olivia. It's falling apart because it was built on appearances rather than substance, just like your engagement." She flinched. "I deserved that." "You deserved a lot more than that." I leaned forward. "Do you know what it was like, watching you all celebrate each other's successes while treating me like a failure? Having Mom plan elaborate parties for your promotions while she couldn't even remember what my company was called. We thought you were struggling. You never asked." I stood up, anger finally breaking through my carefully maintained composure. "Not once in 10 years did any of you actually ask about my work. You were too busy looking down on me to notice I had surpassed all of you." Tears slipped down Olivia's cheeks, real ones this time, not the calculated drops she usually produced for effect. "I was horrible to you." "Yes, you were. Can you ever forgive me?" I studied her for a long moment. "Forgiveness isn't the issue, Olivia. Trust is, and trust has to be earned." Just then, my office door burst open. My parents rushed in, ignoring Sarah's protests. "Emma," my father's voice boomed, though it lacked its usual authority. "This has gone far enough. You've made your point." "Hi," I remained seated, watching them. At what point would that be? That you're successful, my mother said quickly. That we were wrong about you. We understand now, darling. You can stop punishing us. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think this is about punishment? About proving my success? I stood up, walking to the window. This is about consequences, about finally showing you that your actions, your dismissal, your condescension, your casual cruelty, have real effects. We're your parents, my father said, his voice breaking slightly. Everything we did was to protect you. No, I turned back to face them. Everything you did was to protect your image. Well, congratulations. Your image is now exactly what you've made it. A failing company, a broken engagement, and a family in crisis. What do you want from us? Olivia asked quietly. Want? I considered the question. I wanted your support when I was building my company. I wanted your respect when I succeeded. I wanted to be treated like a daughter instead of an embarrassment. I paused. But now, I don't want anything from you. My mother began to cry, but I'd seen too many of her performances to be moved. Please, Emma, it's almost Christmas. Ah, yes, Christmas. I smiled coldly. The dinner I wasn't successful enough to attend. Tell me, do you still need to maintain a certain image for the senator? Or has that requirement changed now that he's abandoned ship? My father stepped forward. Name your price. Whatever you want. Board seats. Shares in Parker Financial. You still don't get it, do you? I shook my head. I don't want anything you have. Summit Industries is worth more than Parker Financial could ever be. What I wanted was a family who valued me for who I am, not what I could offer them. I pressed a button on my desk, and Sarah appeared instantly. Please show them out, and have security update the no-entry list. Emma, please. My mother tried one last time. We can fix this. No, Mom. You can't fix 10 years of dismissal and disrespect with one tearful apology. Actions have consequences. Consider this your lesson in real business. After they left, I sat in my office as darkness fell over the city. My phone buzzed with a message, not from my family this time, but from my grandmother's old friend Margaret, who had supported me when I was first starting Summit Industries. Heard about what happened with your family. Your grandmother would be proud. Christmas dinner at my place this year? I smiled, feeling a weight lift from my shoulders. Sometimes family isn't about blood. It's about who believes in you when no one else does. The next morning, I called a board meeting at Summit Industries. It was time to announce our next major move, a complete overhaul of the consulting industry, starting with the acquisition of several regional firms. Parker Financial wasn't on the list. As I stood before my board, outlining our expansion plans, I thought about my family's Christmas dinner happening without me. They would sit around their expensive table, picking at their perfect meal, trying to maintain their precious image. Meanwhile, I would be building something real, something lasting, not just a successful company, but a life where I never had to pretend to be less than I am. A week later, a small package arrived at my office. Inside was my grandmother's old business card holder, with a note from Margaret. She always said you'd outshine them all. Looks like she was right. I placed the card holder on my desk, a reminder that success isn't about who accepts you at your peak, but who believed in you from the beginning. My family had wanted to maintain a certain image. Well, they got their wish, just not the image they'd hoped for. And me, I finally had exactly the image I'd earned. Successful, powerful, and completely free from their expectations. The next time someone asked about my family, I simply smiled and said, I have a company to run. Because in the end, that was worth more than any Christmas dinner they could offer.